What's up, you guys? Welcome to today's video. As you can tell, we're going to be talking about R. Kelly and Ghislaine Maxwell. Now, we have been waiting to hear how much time both of these predators will serve in federal prison, and we finally have that answer. I'm also going to talk about my very biased opinion as someone who's gone to prison and understands a little bit of this system inside and out. I'm going to tell you guys what both of these people are going to be facing. Ghislaine more specifically as a woman who did prison time. Without further ado, let's kick this thing off. So if you guys have been watching me for some time, you know at the beginning of my YouTube career, I started talking about R. Kelly. That was over 3.5 years ago. That is how long it has taken for him to get sentenced. People have been trying to share their story. Victims have been trying to share their story. Family members of victims have been trying to share their story on R. Kelly, who is a horrible predator, for 2 decades now. And finally, in 2017, BuzzFeed came out with this article, and it basically detailed a cult and how he would keep underage girls against their will, and basically it kind of went over how he would earn people's trust and earn parents' trust of these underage girls. One of the parents said, we went backstage and it was me and it was R. Kelly and my daughter, and he listened to her CD, and basically they were very impressed with R. Kelly. And he used that kind of same energy to lure in underage girls. And he was doing it since the beginning of his rap career. So I can only imagine what he was doing before his rap career. But let's just say we'd all know about R. Kelly when he was about 24, 25 years old. It was well known here in Chicago that he would drive around neighborhoods, go to malls, go to McDonald's, and try to find young, underage, beautiful girls. And of course, like, R. Kelly is a huge star. So if you're living here and you just see a huge star drive up to you or to start talking to you, you're just going to be completely like fangirled out, right? Like, he had what a lot of rich and famous people have, which is incredible star power. And he used that fame, notoriety, and money to lure in as many underage girls as he possibly could. And the fact that, like, we've known about this for so long, and he's just now sentenced to 30 years, and we're gonna get into the sentencing and what I think about that. Just now in 2022, he is sentenced to 30 years. It took 2 decades. It also took not only 2 decades, but over 45, 48 victims to come forward and say the same thing time and time again.
Do you like teenage girls?
When you say teenage, how are we talking?
Girls who are teen.
We all watched, well, if you're old enough to know this, we all watched R. Kelly and Aaliyah. Aaliyah was beautiful, very young girl. She met R. Kelly and she started to sing with him, and there were a lot of like rumors or whispers and speculation that Aaliyah and R. Kelly were having an inappropriate relationship. Some people wondered, oh, well, are they related? Is this your cousin? There is even like a deleted scenes interview from one of the interviews that Aaliyah and R. Kelly did.
No, we're not. We're just very close. He's my best friend.
R. Kelly would go on to marry Aaliyah when she was just 15 years old. And there were papers and documents trying to say, like the marriage certificate, oh, she's 18, but really she was 15. R. Kelly has spent basically his entire career dodging legal issues, allegations. He has settled out of court numerous times. I mean, he has literally spent his entire career dealing with these accusations of literal facts. And yes, from 1996 to 2022, we have this huge 2-decade-long timeline of him doing inappropriate things with young girls. And some of them are just awful. They're heinous. Just to give you guys a little bit of a timeline on R. Kelly, in 1996, Tiffany Hawkins sued R. Kelly for $10 million in damages. Those damages were personal injuries and emotional injuries, and they settled out of court for just $250,000. Hawkins and R. Kelly got into a relationship when Hawkins was just 15 years old and he was 24. Fast forward to 2002, R. Kelly again settles out of court with another victim named Tracy Sampson. Sampson and R. Kelly started a relationship when she was 17 years old. Now that was kind of the floodgates, because after Sampson settled out of court, more victims started to come forward. But Trace Jones sued R. Kelly for just $50,000 for emotional and physical damages, and they settled out of court for an undisclosed amount of money, but it is alleged that R. Kelly forced her to get an abortion. She was 17 years old. In that same year, another girl came forward, Montina Woods, and she sued him for damages because he allegedly, recorded her without her permission during acts. They settled for an undisclosed amount of money. The fact that all of these victims can come forward and they just can sue a famous rich person for an undisclosed amount of money and there's no criminal charges filed makes me freaking sick. There was clear abuse here. There was clear evidence of abuse here, and yet we can just pay them off and he doesn't face jail time. How does that make any sense? Now fast forward to 2008. R. Kelly is finally charged with 14 counts of pornography, and although they had evidence, they found him not guilty. And the reason why they found R. Kelly not guilty in those 14 counts is because they couldn't identify the victim and how old she was at the time of the pornography charges. I was actually watching like a documentary on him a while back, and it was said the people that saw those videotapes were absolutely horrified at what they were watching, and they didn't want to find him not guilty. It was a technicality. They couldn't prove she was in fact a minor. That brings us to the 2017 BuzzFeed article that I told you about, detailing R. Kelly's cult and how he would lure young women in. This is what's so crazy to me is in that BuzzFeed article, well, R. Kelly was literally in trial in 2008 for 14 counts of pornography. This makes me crazy. One of the victims met R. Kelly outside of that courtroom in 2008. If you are like starstruck and you believe in this famous person that you are like a devoted fan to, it kind of sways how you think, right? So Geronda Pace met him outside of the courtroom in 2008, and that's what she tells BuzzFeed in 2017. They met outside of the courtroom and they started having a relationship after that. She was 15 years old in 2008. Pace told BuzzFeed that R. Kelly also filmed her without her consent as a minor. Now more articles are coming out. So from 2017 to 2018, Katie Jones comes forward and she tells the world, she tells Rolling Stone and BBC and a couple of other news outlets exactly what was going on with R. Kelly. 2018 is filled with tons of victims coming forward saying the same exact thing, how they met, where they met, what happened, and now we have tons of victims. Finally, in January of 2019, a criminal investigation is opened on R. Kelly. Just 1 month later, February 22nd of 2019, R. Kelly is finally charged with 10 counts of aggravated criminal assault. And of course, we all know the Gayle King interview in 2019.
Stop it. Y'all quit playing. Quit playing. I didn't do this stuff. This is not me. I'm fighting for my life. Y'all killing me with this. I gave y'all 30 years of my career.
Robert.
30 years of my career. Y'all trying to kill me.
That brings us to now. R. Kelly is now sentenced, it's done and over with, to 30 years in federal prison. Oh, I totally forgot to mention that R. Kelly also was not paying child support, and he owed like $160,000 in child support. So 30 years in federal prison. What is going to happen to R. Kelly? I'm not sure where exactly R. Kelly is going to be serving time, but it's going to be in federal prison, and he's probably going to be it's 30 years, so he's not going to go to a camp. He's not going to go to a maximum security federal penitentiary. He is more than likely going to go to like a medium spot. He definitely can't go to a camp because of how long of a sentence that he has. Because he's a high profile inmate, you would think he's going to be in PC his entire sentence, and I don't know. I would certainly request for protective custody if I was in his shoes. But again, at a medium security, I don't know. Is his life in danger every single day on the yard? I'm not a man. I can't tell you. I would assume that he would be in protective custody. The federal prison system over the past few years has integrated chomos on the regular yard, and they have made it like a hate crime if you hurt a chomo. So I know I've talked about that in past videos, but who knows if he's going to be in PC. He should be. R. Kelly is 55 years old, and in the federal prison system, you have to serve 85% of your time, so yeah, that's probably his final resting place, if you know what I'm saying. It does really make me mad that it has taken so long to get him arrested. It should not have taken from 1996 to 2019 when he was finally charged with. It shouldn't have taken that long. You should not be able to settle out of court as a predator. You should not be able to bring that case in front of a judge and say, hey, I was 15 and this person did this to me. He should have not been able to pay these victims. And I know a lot of you might be thinking like, well, why did they get with him in the first place? Where were the parents? That was his MO. He would go to poor neighborhoods and he would entice young people as well as their family, to let these girls go with him. That's what makes this so sick, is that he would specifically target people that had very little means, very little money, because he knew that the likelihood of them going after him with all of his money and star power were probably slim to none. I'm completely guessing here. This is speculation. I wonder if there are still men that he's going to encounter that are going to be totally fanboying out over him and not believe the allegations, you know, and just want, like, they're going to be starstruck when R. Kelly hits the federal prison system. I don't know. This is a great topic of conversation for Larry Lawton. I'm sure he's going to talk about R. Kelly as well. He would definitely know exactly how R. Kelly is going to be serving his time. Now let's go to Ghislaine Maxwell. In 2020, Netflix released a documentary called Filthy Rich. I watched it even though I didn't want to, just like I didn't want to read about R. Kelly, because as a mom, it just makes me absolutely freaking crazy. But that documentary is awful and gut-wrenching and horrific. You know, like, as a parent, I don't want to think that these things are happening, but this is just scratching the surface. Anyway, that documentary detailed exactly how Jeffrey Epstein and his girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, would basically hunt, I'm going to say hunt young girls to go into their house and give Jeffrey a massage where he would off in front of them. These are young girls. These are underage girls, 14, 15, 16 years old. As you guys know, Jeffrey Epstein is no longer alive. He unalived himself. He was killed by the federal government. Anyway, all that is left is Ghislaine Maxwell. And man, this bitch. So Ghislaine, what she would do with her British sophisticated socialite, trust me, young children, she would, you know, cruise around looking for young girls. She would do that in different settings, social settings, the neighborhood, however they could, parties, and she would procure, that's the word they use in the documentary, but she would lure them back, you know, oh, I have a job for you, we'll pay you this much money, blah, blah, blah. Just like R. Kelly, they use their means, their money, their power, and their wealth to abuse and take advantage of young girls who needed the money. So these girls would be paid hundreds of dollars, $200-$300, to give Epstein a massage. And I know a lot of people out there love to just victim blame and say, like, well, why would they do that? Why would they go in there? Just hearing about the way that Ghislaine was, the way that she spoke, she's from Britain, she's got that beautiful British accent, I probably would have trusted her, and that was the scam. That was how they did it. And because it's a woman going after girls saying, hey, I'll pay you like $200-$300, just give my boyfriend a back massage, blah, 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 in our mansion, I probably would have said yes. I would have trusted her. I wouldn't have thought anything crazy was going on. So according to federal officials, Jeffrey Epstein had 36 victims, some as young as 14 years old. Now, when the federal government says that there were 36 victims, that means they were only able to identify 36 girls, and only some came forward. Only, I think, one girl used her real name, which I couldn't imagine going through this, right? I just couldn't imagine it. So Ghislaine had to wait 2 years for her trial and sentencing and all of that, and she was being held in a detention center in Brooklyn, and she has written like 100 complaints on this facility. She's calling her time a living hell. That was her direct quote. She said that the officers are giving her food with maggots in the trays. She said there's rats, there's mice, there's just all these conditions. She's basically saying that she is living in a nightmare. She has to sleep under fluorescent lights, like, I mean, welcome to jail, dude. Yeah, fucking, they use light deprivation, sensory deprivation. It's insane, and that sucks. Get a sock. I mean, a sleep mask, you know what I mean? She should have watched a prison YouTuber or two. She's also saying that she has not had a nutritious meal in 16 months. Now, that is a very real statement. It's a very real problem with people incarcerated. I'm not saying that you deserve the best of the best, but how are you supposed to work on your life? And hold on, let me spew my little rant. How are you supposed to work on yourself, reintegrate back into society, and get better if the food that you're eating has literal maggots in it and you have to choke it down and go through all of that, right? Like, that's all you're focused on. You can't focus on anything else. Can't focus on what you did wrong. That's very much in the back of your mind, and all you want to do is get out of here. Your mental health deteriorates, your physical health deteriorates when you can't have not rotten food. I mean, nutritious food. I'm not talking about Domino's. No, I'm talking about like nutritious food.
Now, Jess, Ghislaine Maxwell is a horrible predator that lured in underage girls. Don't you want her to live in hell?
No. No, because that means that other inmates are also living in hell. And believe me, there is no inmate ever that goes to a a jail, detention center, federal prison, state prison in America and says this is the most comfortable shit ever, we also should not abuse people. You know what I mean? You have to toe a fine line there. And if Ghislaine is enduring these kinds of living conditions, it means that a lot of other people are also enduring these kinds of living conditions. That is not okay. Just because you hate somebody and what they did does not mean that they should be served maggots and have rats running all over them. Like, I understand that it's a very human emotion thing to say, like, you're the worst of the worst, I hate you, I'm going to hurt you, abuse you, feed you rotten food, starve you, whatever. It's a very human thing. It's very natural. Someone's mowing the lawn. But it's illegal. You can't treat people like that. Even this POS. When Ghislaine was complaining about the living conditions in the jail, this is her direct quote. "I am weak. I am frail. I have no stamina. I am tired. I don't even have shoes which fit properly. They fed me rotten food. One apple had maggots in it. I have not been allowed to exercise." It is my assumption that a federal prison is going to look like the Hamptons to her. She compared some of the food to Chernobyl's the worst nuclear disaster in history and complained of black soggy bananas, wet bread. She said, and I quote, "I've been given food so overnuked it looked like Chernobyl after the nuclear fallout." Probably, yeah. She also went on to say that she used to shower every day, but then the guards started watching her shower, which is something that I have talked about several times while on the internet, and people clap back with, "Just don't break the law." It's not okay, because we're having a conversation about predators, right? It's not okay for male officers to stand over female inmates and physically watch them shower. It's not. It is gross, it is predatory, and you can't abuse and humiliate and mistreat and hurt people because they're in prison for doing that. When you go to prison, your time is your sentence. Prison time is your sentence. And because in our Constitution, you are free from cruel and unusual punishment, and that's not what happens in our prison system. So I'm sure this is very eye-opening for her. I'm not surprised by any of it at all. I don't expect any changes to happen anytime soon. But when Ghislaine gets to federal prison, she was sentenced to 20 years, but her sentencing, like her charges aren't severe. I know, not my words. It's just yell at the federal government. Now, if she was the Full House chick, she would serve time at a low-level camp. You know, Aunt Becky's not going to do penitentiary time. Ghislaine can't go to a camp because she has 20 years, so she's probably going to go to like a medium or a low. They might keep her in PC at first. I don't know. I wasn't a federal inmate. But I really do expect Ghislaine to go to general population. I just do. You know, I don't know if the federal system allows you to request ADSEG, but I fully expect her to be on the yard, be in general population. I fully expect her to do phone interviews after this at some point in the future. I expect the women in the federal system that come in contact with her to attempt to threaten her, manipulate her, befriend her, all for her money. Very common thing when a high-profile inmate comes in. Doesn't matter who you are. You could just be a local high-profile inmate. If I've seen your story all over the news and we all know that you're a millionaire, multi-millionaire, guess what? I'm coming for your stuff. And that is just prison life. You know, that is just the way that prison is. So do I think that 20 years for Ghislaine Maxwell is fair? Yes, I do. The sentencing guidelines for Ghislaine went up to 19 years, so the judge was like, I'm going to give you 20. I think that's fair. And the statement that she made in court, dude, sit your ass down. I don't know why her lawyers thought that was okay, but in Ghislaine's statement, this is what is so freaking disgusting. She basically insulted every single victim Epstein and her ever had by saying that she was one of them. She is a victim of Jeffrey Epstein, and she was manipulated, and she was controlled, and she is sorry for the girls that were hurt, but she was also manipulated. Nah, honey. No. You lured them in. Like, you... One of the people in court that heard this statement was just completely shocked that there was no accountability. It's my understanding that the judge didn't see any real condolence from her, any sympathy from her, any accountability whatsoever. She called herself a victim in her fancy-ass British socialite words, and it sounded more like she was, like, giving like a speech somewhere at like a party. It didn't sound like she was addressing a federal judge, taking accountability for her actions, and that she was sorry. And I think because of that, the judge was like, okay, the sentencing guideline goes up to 19, I'm going to give you 20. Now, the prosecutors were asking for like 50 or something crazy, and then the defendant, which was Ghislaine, was asking for like 4. 4 years, dude? You're not getting 4 years. Essentially, her entire argument was,
oh wait, no, but Jeffrey was supposed to be here.
I think the sentence is fair. I think 20 years is fair as someone who is in her 50s, I think it's a fair sentence. And again, just like R. Kelly, she's going to have to serve 85% of her time. Do I think R. Kelly's sentence of 30 years is fair? I do, because he's 55 years old. I think the sentence is fair, but I think for both of these predators, the sentence comes so much later than it should have. These people should have been in prison 2 decades ago. I mean, it's disgusting that it has taken this long. It's gross that these victims had to wait years and years and years and years before they could see any kind of justice. And what happens when we have predators on the street abusing young girls and young boys is that the longer it takes for us to incarcerate them or charge them and incarcerate them, the more victims pile up. Now, my very biased opinion, end the war on drugs and use that money, which is billions of dollars, use that money to hunt down child predators and human traffickers. I'm glad that they got the amount of time that they got. It sends a very loud, very clear message that that is not okay. I just think the message comes far too late. I want to hear what you guys have to say in the comment section down below. So please let me know if you think these sentences were fair. Let me know your thoughts. I'd be more than happy to make another video on this. And as soon as I find out the exact facilities that both of these individuals are going to be at, I'm going to start writing some people that I know in federal prison to try to get some inside tea for you guys. But I'm going to end today's video here. As always, I love you guys. Stay safe. Stay in recovery, whatever that looks like to you. Smash the subscribe button if you haven't done so already. And I'll see you guys in my next one.